Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. There you are, working really hard in your consulting firm, in your marketing agency, and you're just trying to climb the mountain day by day, week by week, month by month. You're making okay money, but I don't know. I'm not sure if it's scalable. I'm not sure if it's profitable. I'm not sure if it is saleable, but I'll tell you who is sure, Mr. Jason Swenk, agency growth guru. Welcome to the Selling Show.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
So you have a fascinating backstory, Jason. Tell us a little bit about your journey that brought you to the work that you're doing today, and what were some interesting pit stops along the way?
I kind of started my career in '99. I got a job right out of Florida State University for computer programming. But the problem was I was a horrible computer programmer because I learned how to outsource in college because I paid people to do my work. And so when I got to Arthur Andersen, I was really bored. And I worked there for about 6 months. And I was just lucky enough where when the time they started kind of laying everybody off, I was already had my agency underway. One of my friends looked like Justin Timberlake from NSYNC when they were really popular. And so I created my first website called In Shit, making fun of NSYNC. It had like a fake band, fake website, all this kind of stuff. And then people started asking me to design websites for them. And that's how I kind of was an accidental agency owner, where I started designing $500 websites on the side as I was, just kind of working at this big consulting firm. And then by the time they kind of laid everybody off, my business was already underway. Like I was like, sweet, freedom.
And then talk a little bit about sort of growing it, scaling it, selling it, and then into the business that you're running today.
Yeah, it's a long path, but I'll try to make it really quick, and then you can kind of dive in and ask more specific questions. But
perfect.
Maybe a couple years went by, hit the million mark, just working with mom and pop shops, from marinas, lawyers, car dealers, you name it. And then I started getting really more specific and getting bigger clients, working with like Crystal Springs, Coke, Lotus Cars. We did everything for LegalZoom, and got to a point where I kind of hated the business, because I felt like, we scaled it well past the million mark, but I still was in everything. And so the more work we got, the more pressure, the more things I had to do. And I literally got to a point where I was like, screw it, man. Like my wife was like, you're so miserable at doing this business. I think a lot of people can relate. Why don't you go get a job? And I actually interviewed with NASCAR. And they asked me 2 questions, which you can ask me about later, that really kind of changed everything. And then I was like, this is what I can focus on in order to really change the trajectory, is that the word? Am I making up words? Trajectory of the agency.
Yeah.
And then we got to a point where we were over the 8-figure mark and got an offer. Well, we always had a bunch of offers to buy us, but finally got an offer that I was like, yeah, that'll work. And took it. Sold it, depressed, tried to create an iPhone app, hated it. Some old competitors reached out, started helping them out, started a podcast 10 years ago, and that's the business I'm in now.
Wow. Totally amazing. Well, before we lose the thread, what were the 2 critical questions from the NASCAR interview?
Yeah, they asked me, what do you want to do every single day that you love, and what don't you ever want to do? So one of the exercises I always walk marketing agency owners through is get a sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11, put your fist on it, draw a circle around it. Spend about 30 or 40 minutes on all the things you don't like doing in your business that you're doing now. So it could be project management, account management, sales, hiring, whatever it is. Write all that stuff down. And then after that, write all the things that you love doing inside that circle. So that could be adding color to sales, building better leaders, being the face of the organization, creating content, whatever it is. And then what you'll realize is you can say no to the things that you don't want to do anymore. You can delegate them, or you can, find technology to do it. So now you can create and design the business around you. And so when I created the business around me, I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. Rather than, before then, the business owned me. After that, I own the business.
Big distinction. So let's talk about some of the symptoms when your clients come to work with you. They're probably doing okay, but they're very much in the shoes that you just mentioned. Doing too much work, they're getting yanked on and pulled on in every part of the business. Hey, Jason, we need you to approve this copy. Hey, Jason, this website's about to go live. Hey, Jason, we have to have a meeting with this one or that one. Hey, Jason, follow up on the sales guy that disappeared on us, whatever it is. I don't think they have the sophistication yet before they talk to you to put all those very wise, very smart things inside of that inner circle. And they're like, is this the grind that I'm destined to fulfill for the rest of my life? What are some of the symptoms and complaints and problems when they first come knocking on your door?
Well, they don't have clarity. That's the biggest thing, right? They don't have clarity and they don't have the systems. They're trying to figure out the how without the who. And there's kind of two who's. One is, who do you need to hire in order to figure out the how? And then the most important who is, who do you need to become? A lot of times the business actually bumps up against the ceiling of the owner because the owner stopped growing. But if you can kind of keep leveling up as the owner, as the leader, then the business, you can pull the business along if you're in charge of it. The whole reason we do the Agency Mastery 360 business is really providing a resource I wish I had when I was running the first marketing agency. There's so much that when you look back and going, man, I wish I did it this way, right? In the first part, you remember, like if you go back to my origin story, I was an accidental agency owner or an accidental entrepreneur. There's a lot of people probably listening that are in the same boat, like especially in the service-based business, right? Like think about, you knew how to do something cool, someone offered you money, and then you're like, okay, $500, $1,000, whatever it is. And you start doing it, and then you're reacting to the market. But if you can get that clarity, kind of like what I said about those two questions, and then think about, ask yourself this question, because this will change everything for you as well, for figuring out who you need to go after and what do you need to offer. So if you could go, who is the market that I can help the most and what would I do for them? And I would only be paid after I got them amazing results, right? Like, so almost like a performance model. I'm not saying do the performance model. You can, but you have to think that way. And then that's the market you should go after. And then now you have that clarity of going, wow, right? You have a couple things. You have the clarity and you also figured out kind of what you're going to somewhat offer. Because I look at business as kind of like a Vegas buffet, right? Like if you ever been to a Vegas buffet, like it's unbelievable, right? Like you got crab legs and prime rib and like everything, like tons. Like go there with an empty belly and you'll want to throw up after. But what you want to do is you want to try everything little by little. And then the second time you go back, maybe the next year, because hopefully you don't go back the next day, you'd be full. All right, you go back the next year and you're like, oh, I know I don't like that, and that, but I really like this. So I'm going to really dive into the crab legs.
So important. I also want to just confirm the brilliance of that pay for performance mental exercise. Let's dig into that a little bit further, because I think it's the import of that and the weight of that should not be lost on people. So if you only got paid after the client got the result, that's going to help you zero in and triangulate on your who and zero in and triangulate on your offer. It also, I think, builds this sense of confidence, right? You said it builds clarity, and it totally does, but it builds this sense of confidence that, oh, if they already have this and they want to get to that, I know how to do that. I mean, we do that all the time. We do that for clients in our sleep. We are really, really great at that. And so talk about, is it really about low-hanging fruit? Is it about unconscious competence? Kind of zero in on what that really is for your clients once they crack the code.
Well, think about the most valuable asset to people is time. It's not money, right? But everyone has this particular problem. And if you can solve it for them and solve it for them quickly, well, they're going to pay you for it. So if you can really kind of dive into that, there's so many service-based companies out that they're just focusing on what they do. And it's just one particular service. I'm like, no. You got to focus on the problem, right? And what do they actually want? Like, if you even think about, like, if you go to our website, it'll say, like, turning agency challenges into an asset that creates predictability, wealth, and freedom. That's what marketing agency owners want, right? They want the freedom. They want the predictability. They also want to create an asset that they have a choice that's building wealth, or they can sell it one day. That's how I think when I'm thinking about an offering or who I'm going to go after. And then I'm also thinking about, these are not the people I want, right? Like, when we put people in our mastermind, if they're cocky, if they're arrogant, if they don't believe in, like, sharing or, like, the abundance mindset, like, there's no way we're going to help them out, right? We know specifically who we help and who we do not. And it makes it very clear once you start, building a community around these types of people, or building a team around you, right? This is the same qualities I hire in my team. Like, these are my core values. It makes your business pleasurable versus miserable.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And how? Well, I want to talk about a few more of the 8 systems. We're not going to have time to get into all 8 of them, but I think they're brilliant. We already kind of tackled system 1, which is clarity. Given what you just said, Jason, share a little bit about positioning. And I love the way that you talk about it, about positioning your agency or your firm as the choice versus a choice.
So a good example of this is, if you go to a conference and I come up to you and I go, "Hey, David, I'm Jason. I'm the best agency consultant in the world. I've done blah, 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 blah." You're like, "Get away from me, asshole." Right? Yeah. Versus if I come up to you, "Hey, David, tell me more about your business. Why'd you come here?" And I start asking you questions. What that's going to do is change the conversation and change the focus to you, not me. Another great example of this is, if you go to my website, jasonswenk.com, Swenk is with an E, and go /about, go to the about page. You will not find anything about my story until the very end. I started off with questions. Hey, are you trying to build blah, blah, blah? Are you trying to do this? Are you struggling with this? Like, I'm starting off with questions, which is a focus on you, rather than talking about, oh, my people, my process, my portfolio. That's all horseshit. Like, stop talking about that, because it's all focused on you. No one cares about you yet. So you need to make sure you're focused on the right person.
So true. Oh my gosh. And how?
We interrupt this interview with an important announcement. If you're committed to better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees, get over to doitselling.com right now and grab a copy of my new book. That's the deal, kids. Grab a copy of the new book and then get all the bonuses, companion tools, trainings, and downloads at doitselling.com. Buy the book, get the bonuses. Buy the book, get the bonuses. Buy the book, get the bonuses. That's how it works. I'll see you over there.
Let's talk a little bit more about niche and target market. I think a lot, like you said early on in your agency career, it was, hey, we're taking all comers. We're doing all kinds of work for all kinds of people. The positioning formula, and specifically the positioning around what you are great at, that you can base some of those questions on, I'm guessing agency owners are reluctant because they're thinking, I'm going to be bored. They're thinking, I'm leaving money on the table. We used to do websites and SEO and this and that. And now you're saying, hey, take 80% of your revenue and put it off to the wayside and build everything over here. What are some of the typical things that you would show to an agency owner that says, dude, you are not going to be bored. You're leaving money on the table now by being all things to all people. And the positioning and the specialization is the key to set you free. How do you make that argument?
Well, let me talk about kind of the biggest mistake I think a lot of these businesses make when they pick a niche. And then I'll talk about not picking one, right? So think about you pick a plumbing niche, right? And you want to go after them. Well, you think because you picked them, now you got to turn down all your clients that are dentists, that are landscapers, or whatever they are. That's not correct. Those people don't care about your marketing. You're only marketing to that niche.
Yeah.
So as long as you can still follow your process to be profitable, which is key, you can keep those clients because people are not paying attention to your marketing like you think they are. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that they're making. The other mistake is if I'm having a heart attack, am I going to go to a general practitioner doctor or am I going to go to the specialist? And am I going to go to the specialist that's the best in the world? Which would I want to save my life? It's the same way. If you really start thinking about your audience, they want to go to the specialist that understands the challenges. There would be no way in hell my business would be where it is, both the agency or this business, if I didn't specialize. Now, you may be looking at some of the bigger companies. You and I remember when Facebook came in, and we remember MySpace. Facebook came up. They didn't try to compete with MySpace. They didn't try to go after everybody. They started with Harvard, Ivy League schools, colleges, high schools, all that. So, right? So they built layers and built certain things. You're looking at businesses like these bigger agencies that you're modeling. You're looking at where they're at now. You're not looking at how they got there. And most of the bigger agencies got there from a specialization, and then they created other practice areas. That's what we did at our marketing agency. We were generalists, and then we got specialists on certain technologies, and then we started getting specialists in particular niches, but we had practice directors, and we dominated the ones before we actually decided to do other ones. You can't go, I'm going to do 8 different verticals because Joe Blow has that. Like, that's dumb. Like, you need 8 different people to totally focus on that.
Yes.
Like writing content, doing podcasts, like building your expertise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about another area where I think there's some myths and certainly a lot of mistakes, which is prospecting and lead generation. So I think digital marketing agencies, especially ones that advertise, that offer advertising, paid advertising, they think, well, we do this for clients. So the best way, the only way, the smartest way is we're going to buy a whole bunch of ads for our agency. And talk about the mix of inbound and outbound and thought leadership marketing that may or may not involve advertising, even if advertising is one of your flagship program offerings.
Yeah, if you're building a true asset, you should have multiple channels. Like when I'm buying an agency, we bought 10 agencies in the past 2 years or 2.5 years. If they just have one channel, that channel could switch, right? Like think about when Facebook or Apple came out with, it screwed up all the retargeting for Facebook.
Oh yeah.
Well, that put a huge hit on people, right? And then if all your business was coming to that, well, that affected your business. I always look at, they have to have multiple channels. I believe you have to have an inbound channel, like how are you getting people in? That could be through paid leads, that could be through content, that kind of stuff. You should have an outbound channel. How are you actually reaching out to your perfect ideal audience and reaching them? And then I believe you should have a strategic partnership channel where you're looking at not partner, like referral partners, but like back in the day, we were one of the first companies to do a content management system. And then we fell into the typical thing where our clients come first and we couldn't build our own technologies. And so when we realized that, we were like, well, let's kind of leverage what Microsoft has with SharePoint. And let's see how we can make people that use SharePoint really kind of elevate them and build custom code on top of that. And then we went to Microsoft and we're like, hey, check out what we did here to make you guys look really good. Now this is a strategic partnership where now they're going to send us clients like Hitachi and AT&T because we can customize their software to do anything for those clients. Like that would be a strategic partnership.
Let's talk about outbound, because I think if there's any big pocket of resistance to this prospecting and lead generation and sales piece, your clients are probably saying, Jason, listen, we're not cold calling. We don't believe in outbound. We don't believe in spamming our network. I will do anything and everything to avoid picking up the phone, spamming strangers on LinkedIn. Talk about what you actually mean by smart outbound versus what your clients maybe are afraid that it would be.
Well, let's think about kind of all the wrong ways to do it. Like, and I see this all the time. Like, I'm scared to accept an invitation or a request from LinkedIn because I know all their automation is going to come afterwards and just spam my inbox. Or an email of going, can I send you a video? Why didn't you just send me the video? Because you didn't create a video for me. So you're already starting off the conversation lying to me. So I'm not going to respond to you. Here's a way 99% of the time to get their attention. Now, 99% of the people probably won't even do it, which is pretty sad because it takes work. If you made a list of the top 20 people that you want to work with, you go back to that question, who would I help? And I'm going to be paid for performance afterwards. So the top 20, you do some research. You send them a video on day one. Hey, I was checking out your website. I noticed your about page just focused totally on you. What you should probably do is just change it with some of the common questions people are asked because they do blah, 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 blah. Just wanted to help. You send it to them. Now, some people do that. And you're like, Jason, that's not an innovative idea. Correct. And then what people do on day two or next week, they go, hey, David, did you get my video? That's what they do wrong. What I'm saying is every couple days, send them another video. So day 3, send them video number 2. Hey, David, I was checking out your service page. Man, there's a lot of text on here. It's kind of a little overwhelming, and I don't really know where to start. Why don't you create blah, blah, blah? Hope this helps. Day number 3, send another video. Hey, David, I noticed your contact page, or I noticed on your bottom of your about page, you don't have an opt-in for the very bottom, and tell them why this is important. Day 4, do another video. Day 5, do another video. Do it 10 times. When you start getting to the later videos, you're going to be like, dude, David, how many videos did I need to send to you? All right, I'll send you one more, right? Like, and you send another video. And you're helping out. You're treating them already like a client. They cannot ignore you. I mean, come on. If you know what you're talking about, you've done your research, and you can actually help them out. Like, they can't.
That is so good. I love what you said. You know what? I'm going to share the step-by-step exact detail because 99% of you will not do it. Nope. So my listener friends, I need you to prove Jason Swenk wrong. Mm-hmm. I need you to do this and then email him and tell him about the success stories and the new clients that you've landed. That is so good. So just to be clear, because I know what's going through our listeners' heads right now, Jason, is there a call to action at the end of video 1? Is there a call to action at the end of video 2? Should we say book a call, check out my website, here's my portfolio, check out my YouTube page? None, correct?
Nope.
Just be radically helpful and radically generous.
Think about it in sales. If I push on you, what are you going to do? You're going to push back, right? But like if I put my hand out and I start pushing you, you're going to push, right? That's typical sales. But if I give you great information and then I start whispering a little bit, what are you going to do?
Lean forward.
You're going to lean forward. So that's all you're doing.
Really, really great. Totally love it. Well, we need to talk about your adventures in podcasting. We need to talk about your adventures in publishing. So talk about the podcast, how and where that came to be 10 plus years ago, and how are you leveraging the podcast as part of your thought leadership?
Yeah, it's coming up on 10 years. I guess when this episode goes live, we'll be right at the 10-year mark. So 670 episodes later, I guess, right? It was by accident. I just was curious. I was like, I want to get on a Google Hangout when we had Google Hangout. I guess it's Google Meet now. I don't know why they changed the name. That's stupid. But I just started interviewing some of my old competitors. Hey, now that I'm not a competitor anymore, tell us, right? Boom, boom, boom. And that's kind of how the first couple shows started. And my friend was like, you should create a podcast. And my only thought on a podcast was Pat Flynn's podcast, The Smart Passive Income. And what I used to do on that is I would go on his website and I would listen to the audio. I didn't realize you could listen to it on your phone. And my buddy's like, you should create a podcast. I was like, no, I don't think many people are like me. They're going to want to watch a little stupid little thing. He goes, hey, dummy. And he showed me what podcasts were on the iPhone and that kind of stuff. I was like, wow. I was like, I can be driving in my car and listen to these things. I was like, well, let me do that. So I started extracting out the audio and just interviewing people I knew and interviewing CMOs of why they choose agencies and how you can get their attention, that kind of stuff. And yeah, just been doing it every single week. Now we do it twice a week for the past 10 years.
And am I right that it's a mix? Your guests are a mix of industry experts and maybe some prospects that you'd like to do business with? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Some industry people, some, like you said, people that are in the field, former competitors, etc. What are the different buckets of guests that you like to have for that magic inbound traffic that you want to attract?
Well, yeah. Well, the easiest way to get someone on a call with you is say, hey, I value your expertise and let me interview you, right? Like they're not going to say no to that. So it's an easy outreach strategy. It is changing a little bit just because, people have been listening to the show. A lot of people are actually the 1% that are actually doing this. But I also tell people, and some people feel slimy about doing it, but here's the deal. If my whole goal is to get an amazing show for the listeners, that's goal number one. Goal number two, and that's a far distance from goal number one, is if they become a mastermind member, great. If they don't, that's okay too. But what I'll do is if you guys listen to the Smart Agency Masterclass, I'll constantly reference the mastermind. Oh yeah, a member had that. And then at the very end, I'll have like a call to action. I'll be like, hey, if you're an agency owner and you want to be around amazing agency owners on a consistent basis where we can see the things you might not be able to see, I want you to go to here. Then when I end the record button, that was kind of like pumping in the popcorn smell in the movie theater or like the fizzle of the Coke, right? Like before the movie starts to go, like now my mouth's watering. I'm like, I need a drink. But it's every time I end the call or end the recording, they're like, hey, tell me more about this agency owner mastermind. Like, not many people have this. Like, tell me more about it. I'm like, oh, well, it's this, this, and this. And yeah, I'd love to have you. Like, your personality is amazing. You did great on this. And so we get a lot of members that way. But the first goal is creating a great show and great content. If they become a member afterwards, okay, perfect.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. Publishing. Let's talk about the Perfect Digital Agency Avalanche, which is this book number one?
Well, my first book, I actually did Accelerating Your Agency. The first book goes over the 8 systems. I wanted to do a micro book. So the book you're holding up is like a micro book, right? Like, show how thin it is. Like, there's no fluff. It's literally like 60 pages or something like that. It's just like, here's what to go do. And here's a couple of resources for you that will help you out. I've just taken like how I've done my publishing. I'm a horrible writer. I listen to books, or I can't read a book because I'm dyslexic and ADHD. So I struggle with that. But how I create these books is I will create videos. So I will think of the systems, right? So going back to like the agency playbook or the Accelerating Your Agency, right? There's 8 systems and we've talked about some of them today. So I would create a video based on some of these systems, like micro videos. And then I would have my team go, hey, do the transcription. How can you make this general? Like, it'd be even easier today, right? Like, the steps I would take is like the book you're looking at there. I created 4 videos. So if you guys go, and you guys can check this out, go to agencymastery360.com/attract. And once you go in there, you'll have 4 videos. So I created those 4 videos, and then those were the 4 chapters. And so it's an easier way to create. So, and if I was going to do it today, like right now, create the videos, run the transcription like through Descript, take the transcriptions, run it through like an AI tool to write chapters, and then expand on it, all of that, put it all together. And then you can have AI create the book cover. I mean, it's never been easier today to create something really great.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there.
Well, let's talk about that before we wrap up, because I think that's a double-edged sword, especially in the agency business. Are agency owners losing their minds right now with all the things that their business owner clients can do with AI? And what are the pros and the cons of AI being out there when it comes to competing with the basic marketing agency services?
Well, AI will not replace you. People that use AI will replace you.
Yeah.
So agencies need to understand how it all works and start using it in their day-to-day. Like I'm constantly challenging my team going, how are you using AI today to make you more efficient, to make you faster? Think about agencies are middlemen. That's all it is. And they're paid to solve problems. Well, the people that make more money are the ones that solve bigger problems faster. Now, AI allows us to do all this. So leverage AI, figure out how it all works, the best tools, maybe even have someone in charge of your agency of AI rather than just, oh, I know ChatGPT, I can write a prompt. Like, well, who cares? Like it goes well beyond that.
Right.
And it's just changing so fast. But at the end of the day, AI will not replace everyone. It will replace the ones that have always been doing it a certain way. And they constantly say, it's always been done this way. This is how I'm going to do it. Yeah. Well, you're going to be, freight trained over.
I also cannot leave this interview without talking about pricing, because that was one of the first things that connected us about you need to charge more money. I remember seeing a video from you. This was probably 4 or 6 months ago, and the video itself might be older. But I think you're outside there in your beautiful home in Colorado. You have the hat on. There's a mountainscape behind you. And you said, a lot of agency owners have a hard time raising prices. And you're thinking about this the entirely wrong way. Think about the price you want to charge, and then ask yourself the question, who's the client that could pay that? That becomes your new prospecting strategy. So share a little bit about how that works.
Well, yeah, let's figure out how I kind of got there too, right? So I was at my agency. I think I was charging $20,000 a website. I had this prospect come to me that was a complete I didn't want to work with, and I didn't want to say no. And so literally I was like 80,000, thinking he would just go away. And he said, yes. I'm like, oh, And then I was like, wow, pricing does matter. And then I also had another story where I went in and I had a great conversation on the phone, like this prospect calling me, and they invited me to their office. I went to their office. I walk in. I'm like, man, this is the biggest conference room I've ever seen. All these suits come in. Little old me, like 25-year-old Jason, just sitting there going, no gray hair, nothing, right? Like just baby face. And I'm like, oh shit. And so I present the pitch. And I say, it's $20,000. And they all started kind of chuckling. I'm like, why are they laughing? Like, is it too much? I go back the office, and my business partner at the time was like, who'd you meet with? Because I was telling him the story. Some company, Brookshire or something. He's like, Berkshire Hathaway? I'm like, yeah. He's like, hey, that's like one of the biggest companies in the world. And then I later found out they were expecting 300,000. So I lost because I was too low. So kind of, I say that because a lot of you have experienced one or two of those things, right? Like you've lost a deal because you were too low, or you didn't want to get a deal and you pitched high, and then it kind of got you to realization, hey, I can charge a lot more. Because when you start looking at doubling or tripling your business, people look at it the wrong way where they go, I need more clients. I'm like, no, you don't. You just need to charge more if your value's there. And so that's how I've always looked at pricing. And I look at it in kind of a tiered approach. So if you look at figuring out where do your pricing need to be for new ones coming in, and then once you start winning 5 or 10 of those, now the delta between, or the opportunity cost between the new pricing and the old pricing is pretty significant. So then you can actually go to the old clients and say, and Dean did this in our mastermind. I had like 10 different clients in this legacy pricing. Some were losing money. I'm like, why are you even keeping them? Like, This doesn't make any sense. So I said, look, worst case scenario, they all say no. Probably what's going to happen is 50% of them will say yes to the double in pricing. Another half will say no, which means you're going to make the same amount, do less work. Do you like that? Yeah, that sounds cool. Well, all of his clients said yes. He made $72,000 extra a month by just doing this. That's almost $1 million extra for just raising your pricing on your existing clients, not doing any other work.
I like the sound of that. And I think every single listener likes the sound of that too. Well, Jason Swenk, this has been so delightful. Time has flown by. Tell people where they can go to get connected and stay connected to more Swenkalicious brilliance.
Well, if you go to agencymastery.io, so agencymastery.io, all our resources are there. Episodes from the podcast and all the resources. And we got, I think, 600 videos on YouTube. So go to either of those places and just check out our content. You know, some of the very beginning stuff is kind of fun to watch. I look like a Oompa Loompa on some of the videos, or a hostage from, a third world country.
Nice. I was going to say your YouTube channel, also excellent. I think that's where I initially came across some of your brilliant content, is on the YouTube channel. So we're going to have all of those links directly under this episode in the show notes at thesellingshow.com. Jason Swenk, you're a rock star. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the value bombs.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.